A team that drinks together wins together, and my God, the team that drank together in the 90s certainly won together. They won some of the greatest honours in the history of Rangers Football Club. They won some of the greatest matches I've ever watched. They won the psyches, the hearts, the minds of every Rangers supporter of my generation. And that phrase, a team that drinks together wins together, is emblazoned on the soul of Rangers Football Club. But a team that drinks together these days doesn't win a match. It can hardly win a half of football, far less an entire tournament. So how do you bond then? How do you get to know your teammates? How do you get to know the manager? How can you all come together as one kind of united football club that's going to be able to take the buffeting and from the press and from the opposition on the park, etc., from opposition fans, from your own fans at times? How do you get to unite in this modern age, this killjoy, sports science, woke nonsense, just total buzzkill? How do you get to do that now when apparently putting toxins in your body is not the way to perform at your maximum for the people who are paying your wages, supposedly supporters, more likely actually sponsors and gazillionaires? Well, you tell them you love them. You just tell them everything comes from a place of love, and that was something you couldn't do in the 70s, 80s, 90s, basically before the 21st century. As a heterosexual male talking to other heterosexual males, you couldn't do that without being very, very drunk. That way you'd plausible deniability the next day. I don't remember saying that. Did I say that? Or you could deny that you heard somebody saying it to you or whatever. And it's something certainly that Jock Wallace would use when he literally leathered the players in training. It's something that, and no doubt John Gregg and certainly, of course, Walter Smith used. It was a way of telling them that it wasn't personal. You saw the recent, if you're lucky enough, as I was, to see the recent Stevie Clifford interview with Stephen A. Smith for I think the Four Lads Had a Dream podcast. Stephen A. Smith was talking at length about Walter Smith. This was in Walter's second spell. We're in the 21st century, second spell as manager, when he couldn't, obviously the players couldn't get drunk to the same extent unless they just won something, and they won 6 trophies in 3 full seasons he was there, under, what was it, 2 trophies a season, and it's 4 full seasons, it was 2 trophies, so it was 8, and for 3 of those seasons it was the league title. It was one of the major 2 trophies that they won. Also reached a European final, got to the Champions League group stages a few times. But he was talking about how Walter would be the first one to get up and start singing, and a night out he would be getting the drinks in, and he would just sit and have a bevy and have a laugh with everybody. It was all totally social. He was in your pal, he was your mate. Because it wasn't personal. When he was having to be disciplinarian in training, it was never personal, and that was an easy way to understand it. So how do you do it now? How do you do it now when you can't have a drink? You can't go out, and this team that we have just now at Rangers is in a situation where they'll not be able to go out for that celebratory bevy session, get the toxins into the body until the end of the season. But you're still trying to form the bond that can get you to that stage at the end of the season. You tell them it's coming from a place of love. You have the press conference you had yesterday to explain to the press that this was all for the benefit of the players. It was nothing personal. You have the moment we had tonight, and what was it, 65 minutes, I think, that Nico Raskin come on. Have you heard the rumours that are sweeping round Ibrox? You never know about these things. It's just, the minute anything dramatic happens at Rangers, like, 4 players being dropped from the starting 11 from Saturday, then there's got to be more to it than that. But we're hearing big rumours. I was certainly hearing them when I was sitting in the main stand tonight anyway, that there was a massive fallout, or the first fallout between Russell Martin and any of his new charges was Nico Raskin showing a kind of unwilling attitude down at Burton-upon-Trent, or in some training session anyway, and being upset that Joe Rothwell, who apparently isn't 100% fit, was getting to play at 6 when Raskin felt as if he's a better player, he should be playing at 6. That's what he's probably wasn't enjoying his new role as a 8 in the left hand side. It's all stuff that can just be made up completely from what we've seen. But the rumour is that that's why Raskin was the first one to have the big fallout with Russell Martin. I think it's more a case of Russell Martin just was waiting for any kind of slip up. I think he's had this locked and loaded since the moment he started watching the tapes of us last season. He knew he was going to have to do this. He was going to have to sort out a few slackers, a few indisciplined people. He was even using, I didn't even realise when I was doing the Mies van der Rohe stuff the other week, that he was using less is more when it comes to Nico Raskin and his deployment on the field. Fantastic. But this is the rumour tonight, Nico Raskin was one of the first ones to get the face taken off him, and he was dropped from the starting lineup. The first game of the 4 competitive matches that Russell Martin has been in charge of in his time at Rangers. This is the first one that Nico Raskin hasn't started in, but we're 3-0 up, and on comes Nico Raskin. And he gets the call. He's got his wee pink bib on, his wee pink Umbro bib. He's just in front of me in the track side when I sit in the main stand, and he goes jogging down to the gaffer. And as he brings him onto the park, he gets the arm round him, and it's a big hug. First things first. Before he gives him any kind of instructions on it, it's a big hug. Big hug from Russell Martin, big hug from Nico Raskin, and he goes on and he plays at 6. He's in a situation where I dropped you and we're winning 3-0. And we've played the best football we've played in the 4 competitive games. I've been in charge and you weren't involved in it. That's a win straight away for Russell Martin. But instead of giving it, how do you like me now? He's giving him the big hug, and then he's saying to him, when you go and play at 6, Nico, you want to play at 6? When you go, pal. He takes Rothwell off, and on goes Nico to play in his favourite position. James Tavernier. Maybe we thought Tav's going to get rotated anyway. Perhaps it was that. Probably not. Tav, I think at the minute Russell Martin mentioned in yesterday's presser that we have leaders at the club, but some of them maybe need to be developed a bit in their leadership skills. You're thinking, could that be the captain? And Tav just come on the park tonight, not waiting for his name to be announced in the PA system. There was a multiple substitution going on at the time, but he just got on the park and got on with it. But it's 3-0, and when you go Tav, get out there, get a good quarter of an hour, 20 minutes, and make sure it stays 3-0. Danilo, on he comes, dropped for the starting lineup tonight. After finding it a bit tough perhaps in the system that's been played, perhaps due to the failings of some of his teammates, but finding it a bit tough of late in the first 3 competitive games in which he's been selected to start by Russell Martin. Dessers starts tonight, and Dessers scores from the penalty spot and has a great game. So it's like, I'm right to have dropped you, but at the same time, we still need you, mate. We still need you. Get on there, Danny. See what you can do. At least keep it at 3-0. And they did. And I think some of these things, it comes from a place of love. Some of these things are going to be on T-shirts of the future generations of Rangers supporters if everything goes according to plan with Russell Martin. I think the things Russell Martin could do for us in terms of off the park as well as on, I hate that when people talk about Rangers having to get brought into the 21st century. I hear some horrific, deeply crass things going on at other football clubs, and I hear stuff from their supporters. I get it sent to me by their supporters at times, which, from clubs that are seen as being the cuddly toys of Scottish football, or really sentimental clubs. And look at Liverpool, of course, the big one down south, what they did to Trent Alexander-Arnold, all very public. This idea that football supports, you pick a certain club because you're a nicer person. Your club picks you, and you fall in love, and that's it. But we have an image, we have a certain image, and I've liked our image. I like our image for the practicalities of it, because it means there's no sentimentality. Sentimentality is just the other side of viciousness. It has been, in my experience, for my entire life. I like with Rangers, people are right, oh Christ, what Rangers are on. And I've been on European trips with Rangers and all that, and there's, you're not a stranger if you're a Ranger kind of thing, but you all get together. It's the same at every football club. You go for drinks with guys you've never met before in your life, and you're greeting into each other's arms and all that, with your recollections of Rangers by the end of the night, and then you see each other at Hampden, a cup of all right, who do I, that kind of stuff. We're a lovely club. It's a big family feel, but I think Russell Martin could just change so much about the kind of, maybe the collective image, the stuff that some of the young boys maybe resort to, thinking they're being hard, or thinking they're being tough, or thinking they're representing Rangers, whatever. I think that could change massively under a guy like Russell Martin, who is as hard as nails. As I say, watch the Goal Hanger Productions, The Rest Is Football podcast with Gary Lineker, his interview with Russell Martin, between him getting sacked by Southampton and getting the Rangers gig. It is fascinating, in his life is... This is not a weak-willed guy. This is a guy who knows all about the roughness and the toughness of life. But instead of letting it make him bitter or cynical or thinking everything's going to be a battle, everything's going to be a fight, it just makes him ready for the fight. It just makes him able to deal with the fight. But the thing he's going to get out of life is love, harmony. That is success for him. And that's what you need. Somebody who feels that, always feel the love first. I always have to remind myself of this every now and then, because things can get so bitter around the old football. And it's something I always, when I was in my old days of blogging about Rangers, writing about Rangers, podding about Rangers, it's just, sometimes you just have to come back to that all the time. It's about the love of your club first and foremost. Put the hate aside, and I think Russell Martin is a guy who's got the personality to do that. And some of the quotes he came out with yesterday, I'm just going to keep saying it, it's all coming from a place of love. Even it's you need to be resilient, tough, to whatever it was to play for this club. It'll be a question of attribution when it comes to a few years down the line. You know what it's like with the quotations. Sometimes was Walter Smith even the guy that said a team that drinks together wins together? He certainly said as Rangers manager you just need to win. Ali McCoy said we don't do walking away at Rangers at a time when Ali was Rangers. A few months when Ali McCoy was Rangers FC, he carried us. It was him and it was the stadium, and we might have not been a good manager, but then Willie Waddle never won the league as Rangers manager. He knew we needed a European trophy, and then before that we had to respond to Celtic winning a European trophy, and then in the middle of that he got the Ibrox disaster, and he did what had to be done, the dirty work that had to be done, the stuff that he was never going to get any credit for, but he knew it was about the club. And Willie Waddle, the hardest on the Rangers support after the battle with the fascist Guardia Civil, not exactly innocent in what happened after the European Cup Winners' Cup final, but he then goes and he lobbies, he slags us rotten, just totally castigates the entire Rangers support, or the hooligans, the ones that were fighting with the police not on the park. But then he goes to UEFA and lobbies to get the ban commuted from 2 seasons to 1 season. I was reading a thing, listening to a thing the other day about the riot at Aston Villa, that friendly we had in 1976, where my auntie and uncle were drinking pomade up the back of the wee stand. That wee stand, it's now the Doug Ellis stand. It was right up in the corner next to the whole end, as the Polish were sending the dogs in and all that, and the darts were flying. That was abandoned after 53 minutes, and I heard it was all the local councillors and stewards and politicians and that condemning the violence, and then they read out the Willie Waddle quote, and it was just, it was much harder than the Rangers supporters than any other of those people. The people that had been, the non-Rangers people, the Aston Villa people, weren't putting the boot into our support the way that Willie Waddle was after that, because it's tough love. The tough love that somebody characterised yesterday in yesterday's pre-match presser, that characterised Russell Martin, what he did to the players, what he said about his players after that miserable wee draw with Motherwell at Fir Park at the weekend. They've characterised that as tough love, and he wouldn't be stupid enough to say that, but that's what it is. But the thing with all these guys I'm talking about, Bill Struth, we welcome the chase, get that in a t-shirt, it's on flags, we've got it in flags. The thing with all these guys is they're legends. They're bona fide legends. They provided on the pitch. They got stuff done on the park as well as off it. And Russell Martin, after the way it started for him, it's almost like in his first couple of games he got us through a crucial round of European football and guaranteed us money and prestige until of the level we are used to in Europe, the level we should be demanding up until February, basically. And then he had that miserable draw, though, at Fir Park, Motherwell. So it would need for him to be able to, for us all to be wearing T-shirts, for me to be alive, I need to be alive first before I could wear T-shirts. But the next generation of Rangers supporters to be dotting about whether it all comes from a place of love, Russell Martin on the back, and it all comes from a place of love on the front, perhaps on a big blue heart. You need to be resilient to play for this club. If it's too hard for you, if you basically can't take the way I've been speaking to you, if I've been too honest, then perhaps the journey with this club is not for you. I say it'll quotes always get misremembered and get edited down to make them slightly more pithy than I'm remembering them as just now. But for all that to happen, Russell Martin would need to have, really, to save his job just now, he would need to have produced like football from the future or something tonight. He would need to have produced at least a 3-goal win. He would need to done something crazy, like a guy from a foreign country just comes off a plane, goes straight into training, then goes straight into the starting 11, and then goes straight down the byline and pings one to the back post that should have been in, and then he goes straight into the penalty box and gets brought down and wins a penalty. Then he goes straight into the byline in the second half and puts out the ball in the head of somebody at the back post to nod it in for 3 3-0 to Rangers really early in the second half. Stuff like that would need to happen for Russell Martin to start turning it around as Rangers head coach and have any chance of becoming the legend that he will need to become in terms of results on the pitch that will let his personality become the way of Rangers off the pitch. How you doing, folks? This is your Fatek immediate post. Russell Martin has just won a majorly important, as it would be in any season, European first leg at Ibrox, but that is secondary to what he's done for his own reputation. Reaction pod coming to you in association with Jersnet. Check out the Jersnet pod from Sunday night, and I was on it, and I'm going to say, but just check out how it's Ben gets in there. Check out how Rob asks Ben first what's his score prediction, and Ben goes, I knew 3-0, and so I get asked second, so I've got to change mine so I sound like I'm not just copying Ben, and I go, 4-1. I was going to say 3-0 myself, but it's 4-1. I think there's some bribery going on there. I don't like to talk out of shop, you know what I mean, but I think there's some bribery going on there behind the scenes. Ben saying to Rob, ask me first, because I think X going to go for 3-0, and I want to go for 3-0, so I mean, I'm more raging about that than even I would be if I'd been stupid enough not to put any money on 3-0, you know. Not put my money where my mouth is. A lot of folk thought the manager was going to do the same thing, or the head coach was going to do the same thing. I'm sponsored by Jersnet, and I'm also sponsored by Voy. Oh, Voy, you seen that advert? It's not how the Jag, and folk keep mentioning it to me, I don't know why they're mentioning it to me, this weight loss Jag you get just now apparently makes you feel sick and not like food. I couldn't live if I didn't like food. Anyway, it's not a life worth living. But there's a more kind of commercial one just now. It's called Voy, and it comes in a wee kind of pink box because it's aimed at ladies, and it's pretty painful. And there's a backup plan. There's all this stuff you get where you obviously pay so much a month, and you can talk to a psychologist or something like that online every time you're feeling hungry. Which I would never stop talking to that person, even while eating cake. But they have a woman on it, and she's supposed to be like a member of the public who's just an example of how great it's working for her. So we'll all think, oh, she's good. And really attractive lady. She's heavy, obviously, because she needs to be believable as somebody who needs to lose weight, very well spoken, etc. But she's obviously an actress. She's obviously an actress because she's really good. She's really convincing. Do you know how sometimes they get members of the public and they make them say like pre-prepared lines in these kind of, when they're selling these kind of things on telly, and it's like, I thought Anglia double glazing were the best double glazing company I've ever and it's just like, that's painful. Just let them speak, you know. Well, this is the other way, but this woman is obviously got the pre-prepared lines, but she's acting it, you know, and it's great. It's really professional, and she looks great and she sounds great, but she sounds like she's acting, so it's totally unconvincing. But the thing is, if she was a really good, it's like she's like kind of soap opera level of acting, where like she's, you know, filling the screen. I don't mean that. Look at me, I fill the screen every week with this fat coop, and I'm not talking about her weight there. That's a cheap go there. But she's, you know, proper. She's got presence. She's got proper kind of stage presence, screen presence. And she's enunciating, you know, and speaking with conviction and what have you. But it's not like a proper actor, a fully like a movie star level actor would be more attractive. No, like a proper actor, a really good, like Danilo kind of level. I'm not mentioning Meryl Streep. I'm not getting into the Meryl Streep thing. But you don't see the joins. You don't know they're acting. They're just doing it so well. They're so convincing. So if she was really convincing, then as a member of the public, you would think she was a member of the public. So there'd be no point in paying an actor, would there? You know, it's kind of crazy. And I only say that's my sponsor, and it's quite a coincidence because I feel as if that's what's happening with Voy, VOY. You get it's a wee pink box and that kind of thing. You'll see the adverts for it if you watch the telly. But Russell Martin, I think it's the same with him. It's like we need him to if he's going to come out and kind of call out the players and that kind of thing. Well, he's got to put his money where his mouth is. He's got to be convincing, right? Well, he has done that, and now everybody thinks that it's only convincing because he's done what they thought he should. The supporters, everybody wins tonight. Everybody's happy because they think that Russell Martin's only done what they wanted them to do. You know, the people that were going most kind of apoplectic and just that's Sammy's tea, so it's all over. We should never have appointed this guy. I didn't like him when he was appointed. I didn't like him when he was appointed. I was underwhelmed by the appointment as well. But since I've heard him talking and all that, this is the guy. He's convincing. But folk now think that it's them. So he's done it so well that he's actually just, what's the point of having Russell Martin? Because it was me that said you've got to put the boy errands to to write back. It was me that said you're going to have to get Hefty on a left back. It was me that said Tav's a dud. No, me. I'm just quoting folk saying this kind of thing. So it's the same kind of effect as when it's actually working really well. When when the acting's so good that you don't know it's acting, it's like when the manager's done so well, everybody he doesn't get any credit anyway. It's. My name's Alec Anderson. Baby, can I dress you? I mean, help you pick out your clothes before we go out. Listen, girl, I ain't saying you're helpless. Sometimes, those are the things that being in love's about. Didn't do. If I was your girlfriend, do. If I was Gerald's manager, if I'd taken any coaching badges, if I'd managed a team even to the semi-final of the Junior Cup, if I'd watched a YouTube video of how to coach an under-10s team on the Sunday morning that never played football before in their lives, then I would have a right maybe to mouth off about how Russell Martin. It's the details. It's the details. Folk get hung up on details. This whole get real, wake up, the guy's not doing the job right. So it's a get real, the whole kind of, we'll use that rubric, that metric, that attitude of wake up, he's going to have to move this guy. No, wake up. We've been resetting every season for the past 28 seasons, it feels like. The level of change we're going to require to get ourselves back to the level of success that we desire that Rangers should be achieving. Domestically, anyway. We've been doing the European side of it for the past 7-8 seasons. It's going to require a massive change, and it's going to take longer. About Motherwell, they put all their guys, they had massive change as well, and they were brilliant against us after one. But they weren't playing in Athens in searing temperatures. And the Wednesday nights, they are struggling to get past Stenhouse Muir and Clyde and Peterhead in the league. You've got a point. You have actually got a point there. But they're not trying to win in Europe and win the actual title. Motherwell are just trying to get in the top half of the table at best. That is. So we're having to redevelop on a whole new level. New owners, new directors, a new setup, the directors, a new coaching staff, and so many new players. Even more than Motherwell, and we're also trying to get rid of bad vibes that have set in with certain players, just maybe through the amount of changes, the amount of managerial change creates massive inconsistency, and players will disappear into their shell. But the manager called this all out, and my name's Alec Anderson, and I am talking to you after Rangers beat Viktoria Plzen by 3-0 in the first leg of the third qualifying round of the Champions League tie here at the place of biggest love that I know, the place of love that we love to call Ibrox Stadium. I parked the car the night, and then a guy came in. I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't pull in and park in front of this guy. This guy came in after I'd parked, and I was sitting there having I got a wee flask of tea. I'll not lie to you. I got a wee flask of tea because I like getting here early because of the QR code thing. The ticket's been on everybody's phones, creates a bit of hassle, creates queues, and sometimes you're going to end up being late for the game. So I left earlier than usual, but I did that time when I got here too early, and I left before I'd properly finished my dinner. So that's how desperate I was to get to this game in time. So I poured my cup of tea into a wee kind of flask thing, and I was sitting drinking that in the motor when it was parked, and the guy pulled it in front of me, parked right in front of me, facing me, and his Reggie was CL Ibrox. Now obviously there's numbers in there making it no exact, but it was CL Ibrox, and I'm thinking, Champions League Ibrox. The guy's pulled up in front of me, Champions League Ibrox. I should have known this game was going to totally go our way, and because I'd got there too early, I'd still time to get to a bookies and put a bet on 4-1 and 3-0. Quite frankly, I mean, the guy's name's probably Callum Lafferty or something like that, but it looked like Champions League Ibrox. So that was the first omen that everything was going to be okay. But while I was in that car, I looked at I've not seen the interviews before the game, the TV interviews. I've not seen the TV. I'll watch all that when I get home. I've not read anything. I've heard a lot, though. I don't know if you heard the rumours sweeping the nation about the big bust-up that led to tonight's changes. As far as I'm concerned, it's been a deliberate tactic by Russell Martin anyway. It's nothing to do with a kind of uncontrolled bust-up. I think it's just something he's been aiming to do from the moment he got in here. He's probably cleared it with Thelwell and Purdy and Patrick Stewart. It's always been the plan. They need a rocket up them. Do you mind if I give them that rocket up them the second they slip up? Dodgy performances against Panathinaikos, massively great result. Can't do it then. Dodgy performance against Motherwell and a really shitty result as well. So that's me. I've got license to go for it. Aye, on you go, Russell. That's what's required to get rid of the deadwood or the atmosphere of deadwood around about the place. But I'm sitting in the car and I'm looking at my phone. I'm talking too much, I know, sorry. It's just such a bloody relief. That result tonight, that performance. I'm looking at my phone and waiting until, well, quarter to 7. And we refresh, and up comes the team, and it was harsher than I thought. It was harsher. I did not know if Tav was going to get it. I did not know if Tav was going to get dropped. I don't know if Tav's maybe had a wee injury or something like that. Maybe there's a reason for it. Maybe other than it being Tav's part of the problem. But captain, my captain. I feel right now, probably in respect to Tav, the same way. It was one of the Cambridge Spies dramas. You know, I've seen Tinker Tailor. I've seen like the Tinker Tailor, the Alfredson film, you know, the TV series a million times. Like a radio play as well. I think the last thing I did was actually read the book, Tinker Tailor, and then right into all the. I started going to Berlin and all that. You're always thinking about Bridge of Spies and stuff. You always think about all the Tinker Tailor stuff, the spy stuff, the espionage, and it's all about, you know, for Britain, the Cambridge Spies. And how they betrayed us, etc. And it was one, I think maybe the wee guy, I can't remember his name, he's in Rev. He is Rev, the Rev, kind of small actor chap. I think he's playing Guy Burgess. And it was a BBC kind of drop 3 years ago. It's probably 20 years old, maybe not as bad as that. But I remember watching this, and it's shown them all in the 1930s, but they're all, you know, basically loving communism. Communism's the way ahead. All these kind of Cambridge types, and this is good. And then they get the evening newspapers, and it's like, you know, von Ribbentrop, and it's a pact of steel. The Soviet Union, who they idolise, because they don't know yet about what's actually going on in the Soviet Union, the practicalities of that kind of regime. But that's their heroes, because their communism is working as far as they're concerned in the old in Russia and its satellites. But they find out they've actually got in bed with the Nazis, who are the opposite, who are the enemy, who are, you know, the kind of extreme of what they think's happening to Britain, British politics and that. And it's like they've went into and the letdown of knowing that what they were wanting to happen, what they were wanting to succeed, you know, international communism, is actually got into bed with Nazism, with fascism, to achieve a really, you know, a grubby aim of, well, actually, it was Finland. It was Finland that were invading, of all places. So that was me tonight. I was just like wee Guy Burgess there, totally greeting and all that, because I've been totally let down. It's Tav. You had to drop Tav, you know, and that's what it's like. It's a result that pleases everybody. It's a result and a performance that everybody can take credit for. And the head coach has done it in a way that doesn't alienate any supporters and doesn't alienate any of his players. But how's it going to be regarded? I don't know. Tav, that's a massive step. And we thought James Tavernier was going to get rotated anyway. He's getting towards the end of his career. He's not got the ability to belt up and down the wings anymore. He's now got a head coach who doesn't want his fullbacks to belt up and down the wings. Why is he not wanting his wing backs to overlap? Did you see the fucking third goal? That's what he wants to happen. That's been the guy's back. The guy's plan. He's plan a chance before he slaughter it. But Tav, after having a question of leadership, perhaps, was mentioned in yesterday's press conference. Some of the leaders we have here just now maybe need a bit more developing. I thought that was a bit ominous for James Tavernier, and the part of the rumours that are sweeping round Ibrox Village tonight is that Tav was also, he's getting told that he's part of the problem. He's too powerful a figure in the dressing room. This is just stuff that can be made up from, you know, what we saw. See the whole thing that heterosexual women who watch the Real Housewives of, you know, Dorset County or whatever it is, you know, I sometimes see bits of that. The other person in my house sometimes watches that kind of stuff. I'm like, how can you sit and what? They're all toxic. These folk are totally toxic. They're just making stuff up and bad mouthing each other. These are grown women with more money than sense. I don't know how you can enjoy this. I then toddle into my wee room and I go on, to Rangers Twitter and I go into my own podcast or whatever, and it's like, Tav's thinking, and I'm thinking, and I know for a fact that he's exactly, I live in exactly the same world. But aye, the rumours were rife. Ibrox tonight. Tav is in the park. It's I don't know if it's going to be seen because that's required Hefty to get played tonight. After Russell Martin expressly said that Hefty wasn't up to the task of playing at left back, and a big criticism of Hefty is the fact he's got a right back playing in his place for the first 3 competitive games of his reign. But then Hefty's back in tonight, something that a lot of fans were crying out for when it's obvious that he doesn't want to play with overlapping fullbacks. And I was slagging off people crying out for that, and just the guy sticking by his guns. I like it. He's playing a settled team, until he gets on the players that he wants. But no, he did. Sorry, there's seagulls. I thought it was a hawk there flying about. But Hefty's there, so is that the manager backing down to the fans' demands or whatever like that? But at the same time, Max Aarons goes to right back. That's what we all wanted as well. And Aarons did make a couple of ricks at the weekend at Motherwell due to playing on his wrong foot, but that moving Aarons into the place, the louder fans demanding, he was always obviously going to get moved there eventually. That's to say that the captain doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me that I've got to move the captain. I've got to drop the captain to get him in there. So that's Russell Martin showing his strength, and Danilo could be like not Danilo's fault at all because he's not been getting the service of late. Dessers comes in place of him. Poor Kieran Dowell, he get dropped. He never come back on the park tonight. But a wee round of applause when he went down the trackside and a warm-up in his subs vest. But we might not see him again. And this is what I was saying. When people were howling about Kieran Dowell being in the team, I think, do you actually think he's going to still be in the team by the end of August? Never mind by the end of next season. He's no... The manager's obviously just waiting until he gets guys in the door. And one of the guys he got in the door is the Antman. It's Antman in the gas tonight. So it's 4 changes to start and line up from Motherwell. Jack Butland still in goals. John Souttar, big John Souttar as captain, centre half alongside Nasser Njiga, player Nasser Njiga, signing of the summer so far, or maybe signing of the summer until kick-off tonight. But he's been absolutely solid. I keep forgetting to mention him. He's proper, he's quality. And he does the whole line-breaking thing as well. He knows what the manager wants. He does the line-breaking thing quite regularly, drawing in the opposition strikers and then taking a wee step up. We've got Hefty back in from the cold. He's in at left back. That lets Max Aarons go across to right back because Tav's on the bench. And we've got Lyall Cameron coming in to play what was the Nico Raskin role, the kind of left-sided 8. I thought if the manager was going to make massive changes tonight that Diamandi would be one of them, but not. Diamandi retains his place as a kind of right-sided 8. And up front, it was Dessers in for Danilo. You had the Gas, JD Gassama on the left-hand side, and it was the Antman, Oliver Antman, his first game for Rangers. He flew into the face of a storm, basically. There was a Storm Flores, and it's heading that way, heading to the northeast, and it's heading up towards Finland and the Netherlands, whatever one is comfy. So the boy, he's just something against that, the Antman. He flew against it, and he's arrived into the face of a storm at Ibrox. This is quality commentary you're getting here, and he's just taken the place by storm. I could keep going with this kind of crap, but he was sensational. Oliver Antman just made all the difference because when the manager, the head coach, when he's getting the players that he needs, we've still no sign of Igaman, who's always fantastic. He always makes things happen. I don't know if it's because he's going to be going somewhere else or he seems to be genuinely injured. He had to hold up because of his visa and all that stopped his training. And Asgard just hasn't appeared at all since the coming on at half-time in the Bruges friendly to say hello to us. When he looked like Lyall Cameron's adopted dad. So it was, they've not shown up, but we needed the attacking options, and on came Gassama tonight. That's him. He's starting to get his fitness. He's on the left-hand side, and we've got, Gassama started on Saturday, and we've got Antman on the right-hand side, and he was a revelation, an absolute revelation, an absolute machine, and so was Lyall Cameron. It overshadowed what Lyall Cameron did, but he worked his arse off and instantly demonstrated why Raskin, and I thought Diamandi as well, have been too up themselves, been a bit too huffy. They're not wanting to run their new roles. Which I can understand them trying to get used to the role, because I thought Conor Barron, Diamandi and Raskin, that tight wee triangle, especially away from home in Europe, the few times that they played together as kind of destroyers in chief when we were away from home, I thought they were magnificent and really electric. And we saw what Raskin could do when he came into a game last season, but people talk about giving him a free roll and all that. This isn't not a tactical blueprint that allows for free rolls. The ball is going to do most of the work. You're not going to have players running about all over the place. It's discipline, and it's going to work the way it worked tonight when it's at its best. So Lyall Cameron just showed exactly how that role should be done. Just try to think about it because I'm done. So it's like, it's been trauma. It's been trauma all summer, hasn't it? It's the trauma of, I thought you move house. It's a great thing to move house, but it's still pretty traumatic. Well, we've had that, the new ownership, and then the new head coach getting announced, the ownership getting confirmed, and having to say Julio to Barry, and hoping we close out the season in decent fashion. And it just all seems to be merging into one. It's straight into crises with the way we were playing. I would have loved tonight if we'd seen that team and I'd turned up at Ibrox, and it still had it put Hefty in it right back, and Gassama on the left hand side, because it was getting to the stage where we either needed a magnificent performance or just an absolute laugh. And I would also have loved it if we'd won 3-0, but 3 or 4-0, but because Viktoria Plzen had get 3 guys sent off straight away. Other goalkeepers kept dropping the ball into their own net from pass back, so we'd 0 XG, and they were having another like a Panathinaikos type night where they were knocking the ball back off our goal line because the guy was away celebrating a goal that hadn't actually crossed the line, it would come off his back heel or something like that. They were just missing sitter after sitter, so it's like they had 58 shots on goal, and for some reason none of them went in. We'd 0 shots on goal, but we won 4-0, just to keep everybody kind of simmering over and raging while Rangers still progressed. But it was nothing like that. I mean, Viktoria Plzen had a few chances in the first half, looked like they could get into our box and all that, and Rangers weren't actually creating many direct shots on goal. And then the Antman went belting down that right hand side, and he pulled one. Oh God, there was a close chance. He pulled it back across, and it looked like Gas was going to nod it in, but it was a heroic effort, last-ditch effort by one of Viktoria Plzen central defenders, wearing all white tonight. Viktoria Plzen instead of their red and blue, which of course would have clashed with us, but it meant we were wearing our classic European all-blue kit, which I usually love, but I think it shows up in a strange way how there's too much white in that new Rangers home jersey. There's 2 great things about the Rangers strip. Is the blue of the home jersey, but also I think the clash, the beautiful clash with the contrast with the blue of the home strip, the white of the shorts, and the red and black of the socks. So when they're kind of playing about, mucking about with the home top and the way they have been doing recently, and they show this, they don't have the contrast with the red and black socks and the white shorts. It just, it's shown that the Rangers blue is too fussy just now. There's too much on it. Also, there's a wee red thing, a wee red detail at the bottom of the kit, the bottom of the top. The bottom of the shirt, which goes round the back as well, and it looks like everybody's carrying a red card in their pocket, which is quite symbolic. But we had a close chance, and then I think it was at 15 minutes. 15 minutes, then the Antman did it again, and no, it wasn't the Antman. It was oh my God. It was football from the future. It was football from another level. It happened so quick. I don't know who it was that powered the ball into Desser's feet in the box, but it was a wee flick round the corner from Desser's onto Gassama, and he just puts it in the back of the net. And everybody's kind of looking at each other going, that was fucking magic. That was what a goal that was. It was so fast. I don't know who put the ball into him. I might be describing it wrong as well. But it was that directness and that pace. The fact that you don't need players to be running. If you need players to be running off the ball, obviously, but you don't need to be carrying the ball forward, ziggy, wavy, and the way that maybe Nico Raskin wants to play. But it was just great. It was a fantastic goal. It was like getting dragged through a kind of a wormhole in the space-time continuum. It was pulling us from the 1980s through into the 2020s, the way that goal was scored into maybe Premier League stuff as well. Certainly English Championship football, but it was gorgeous. So gorgeous, I couldn't keep track of it. I'm too old and I'm too fat. But it was a great goal. And then you're hoping we can push on a bit. And it was, I can't remember what else happened. Can't really remember what else happened. I know Viktoria Plzen, a couple of chances, a fantastic last-ditch tackle by Giga at one point. And then, was it 30-odd minutes, 35 minutes? The Antman gets set free. I think it might have been a ball from Hefty, was it? Somebody put the ball up the channel. Again, it's just it all happened so quickly. I can't remember. He was just away. He was away. The blonde Finnish streak. Away he went into the box. It was a fantastic ball around the kind of... And away he went into the box and he got brought down from behind. And I thought it was clearly a penalty. But the referee was Clement Turpin. Mail it Dick Turpin. Mail it Dick Turpin, you know, because that was highway robbery. No getting a red card for that. They waited. It was a penalty to Rangers anyway, and they waited to see if obviously VAR was having a look at it, and Turpin seemed to deal with the whole thing quite clearly. I heard at half time it was because the fella who knocked down Antman was looking to. It was a genuine attempt to get the ball rather than a foul, but it seemed to be last man, and we're expecting a red card. Didn't happen, and up steps Big Cyril, right foot, bottom left hand corner, just slamming, just no danger whatsoever, and he's off the mark again. Cyril Dessers, 3 seasons on the trot scoring for Rangers, 3 seasons in the trot scoring for Rangers. In Europe, did he get the second goal against Servette? Cyril Dessers, or was it him that missed the sitter against Servette under Michael Beale? Was that Sam Lammers that missed the sitter? Because obviously they put out Servette. There could be a link there. If I knew anything about football, I could have worked that in. But it was 2-0 against it, and everyone was just looking fantastic, and everybody's turning and saying to each other, it could be, I think one made them through. We don't want to lose a goal, but one made them through. The football was direct, it was pacey, it was, everybody clearly knew what they were doing. There was maximum energy. So the head coach's words had taken effect with the players. They're obviously listening to him, and you're thinking, just hopefully it doesn't collapse, because we've been noted for performing well in one half and not so well in the other in the short space of time that Russell Martin's been in charge for various reasons. We come out in the second half, and within a minute or two, no changes. The change for Plzen, but not for us. Diamante's rattled the bar. What is wrong with me? Why do I find hitting the bar almost more sexy than the ball going in the back of the net? I like a big rod of steel kind of thing vibrating and shuddering, but not. I find that more of a turn on than the ball kind of penetrating the net and get a bit. There's something maybe we need to have a word with myself. I kind of go on a journey of discovery, but it was just the ball still. It leaves a trace, I think, in a way that few other things in football do. You can get the. You're watching it on the telly, or people have got certain apps, or they've got the graphics and that, and you can do that. The thing they do in Sky Sports with the ball, this is the way the ball's moving, and they do a wee tracer arc kind of red line thing following the ball. But in the actual stadium, watching the game itself, there's very few things, tackles and that, and guys in sliding celebrations can dig up bits of turf, but there's very few things where the ball leaves a mark, maybe when somebody's cooping, or if it's a muddy ball and it hits somebody in their white shorts. But I think when the ball's been vibrating, it's away, and yet there's still the crossbar is still vibrating, still shuddering, and knocking any bits of rain off the net, and it's that's where the ball's just been, and there's an effect there. I find that quite always, even when I was playing, used to play like Sunday League, really bad. Play is doing a lot of heavy lifting there. But when I was playing Sunday League, I would have a wee tactic with Gordon Patterson. He would say Alec, and I'd go front post, and he was really good for the corners. He put the ball right in my head. I think I scored about once, but I just get a flick on, and it would come off the bar, the big kind of tubular. They call it the woodwork, but it's really metal, isn't it? And it's that sound, that ka-thunk, it was. I really enjoyed it, and maybe that's why I only scored the once from that move. Sorry, it's been a lot of stuff. That's Friday doing the preview after the European game, and the Wednesday, and then just so much to discuss on the Saturday night into wee small hours, and then of course it was on Jersey night and Sunday night, and been a half wit on that, and then to do a preview. I'm leaving a chance to get back to MD. Sorry, folk are getting in touch, and I really appreciate it. It means so much. I feel terrible though. I've not had a chance to reply to everybody that posts on that. I know he's only looking for a reply. In fact, you probably hope you don't get one. But I like to get back to everybody's. But I'm going to catch up with the posts people have been putting on. I'll reply to people below these podcasts. But they hit the bar. Oh, we're not going to get to 3. Yeah, we did. We got to 3, and God, such a sexy pass, such a pinpoint accurate, just curling right at the end, sort of. It's like a snooker shot almost, from Aaron's up Aaron's up the right hand side, and it curled round just perfectly onto the toe of the Antman, who clearly understands the instructions, who has been surveyed, recruited, sourced in the most professional possible way to come on the park like that tonight and be able to just to go. He's talking about how he's been doing pre-season training with Go Ahead Eagles and the event on that. It's not as if he's lost any of his pre-season, but to understand the instruction, his English is absolutely sublime, and just get what's required. This is football that proper footballers understand that Russell Martin has wanted us to play. He times his run. He knows where that ball's going to go. He times his run to perfection. Aaron's just at the ball of the century. The Antman gets there, and right in front of me on my main stand berth, you think, Holton, just get a good ball into the box, son. He just puts it on the Gassie's head at the back post, and then comes Gassama for his second goal of the game. 3-0 Rangers. What was that? An hour? Was it an hour? Even was it 50 odd minutes? Like 50. I just know that was it. Nothing really. I think they had a free kick that Jack Butland pulled off a kind of reasonable save, put it over the butt. By the end of the game, there was a point with all the substitutions. It was to let everybody know that the players that had been dropped, no hard feelings. But by the end of the game, they had a free kick. I think it was in the second minute, in the 4 minutes of injury time. You're thinking, 3-0 means they've got to come at us. 3-1 would have meant they had to come at us in the second leg. And you're thinking, if we've got either Gassman or Gassama or the Antman playing, either they'll just rip any team that's coming forward at us is going to get ripped to pieces at the back in Europe, in old school European counter-attacking style. You would hope, we still. This is a great night for Russell Martin. He's probably going to have a properly bad night as well, because it's going to take a while for everything to kick in. But I thought 3-1, it's going to make it a bit uncomfortable, a bit more uncomfortable than we really deserve it to be. So they got a free kick about 2 minutes into injury time, and just at the edge of our box. You're thinking this could be bad. And the guy, somehow they managed to be offside while also the guy who took the free kick just passed the ball straight out of play. He just knocked the ball up the side to nobody. There was just nobody there whatsoever. But also, whoever was in the box, expecting the ball to get swung into the box in the penalty spot or whatever, was offside. So they get flagged offside. We've fried their brain. My brain's completely fried because it's been so tumultuous the past few days. But we fried Viktoria Plzen's brains. They didn't know what to do. It was sumptuous football from Rangers. It was a totally professional, totally organised, totally energetic performance. And when the energy died, when they used up the energy, they got the job done in under an hour, and then it was just substitutions. I think Antman, Gassama got the official man of the match from the sponsors, and the two of them were sensational. He did a wee bit of dribbling at one point as well. Wee cameo got done that far side for me in the second half, which was tremendous to watch, really entertaining, and it was thrilling. It was utterly thrilling. The nascent signs, they were there. There was nascent moves on Saturday. You saw the embryo of what we're going to be in an attacking sense in that first half on Saturday at Fir Park, but the manager was slaughtering them for it, not being able to do anything with it. We did more with it tonight, and it lasted longer, and it was more thrilling than ever. It was great to watch. It was proper. It was just bloody proper. I don't mean Robin proper. It's what we've been looking for, that performance tonight. I thought Lyall Cameron was outstanding. I say Antman or Gassama can probably get man of the match. You've also maybe gone under the radar a bit. John Suter, what a great night for him, did well. Captaining the club, great night for the big man. Still playing on his wrong side, so you can criticise that kind of stuff if you want to still. And we had, I think Lyall Cameron was tremendous. His performance was absolutely fantastic. And Nasser Ajiga as well. Really, really good. Kind of maybe slightly under the radar, both of them, but they were tremendous. The whole team was fantastic, and we go into the game next week over in the Czech Republic. It's a massive advantage. What do you want? Do you want Europa League? Do you want? Because if we go through next week, you still got a chance of losing out in the playoffs. We've still got the playoffs to play. I don't know what happened with Bruges and Salzburg the night. 48 minutes. I'm going to talk a bit more crap. I can't get a sub 30-minute pod. I'm too exhausted to stop myself talking, and I've been talking so long for the past few nights about unhappy stuff. I'm going to talk a bit longer about something I really enjoy. But the thing with the difference between the Europa League, I think, and the Champions League just now, massive in terms of money, and probably you could say it's massive in terms of prestige. But if we go into the Champions League and we're getting scudded royally, which we could do very easily, it's just a different level altogether. Some of the teams you'll get in that Champions League, maybe it's not as bad because you're not getting the teams home and away. I don't know. But I think the difference is, like, I just discovered recently that in 1995, like Sophie Thompson, Emma Thompson, Emma Thompson, just Emma Thompson, just to be married to Sir Kenneth Branagh and all that kind of stuff. She's just, you know her or you don't. Famous actress. She's a comedian. The footlights and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't really have a lot of time for her because she seemed like a proper lovey and all that. But anytime she was interviewed, she seemed to kind of love herself and what have you. But I've actually kind of probably fallen in love with her because Ang Lee's Sense and Sensibility is one of my favourite films of all time. I was talking about Heat, and I'm all American History X, Raging Bull, The Search. There's a lot of kind of macho and dark stuff. They're just typical, unreconstructed male stuff that I like. But Ang Lee's Sense and Sensibility, the interpretation of the Jane Austen novel, it's one of my favourite films ever because it's just so unrelentingly happy and brilliantly acted and joyful, and also got a lot of really solid emotional moments in it that come from that speak to stuff that's happened to me in real life, in my life, sorry. But and then Emma Thompson, she got the Oscar for the best adapted screenplay. She adapted Jane Austen's novel for the screenplay for Ang Lee's Sense and Sensibility, and she won an Oscar. I think I mentioned this before, for acting, and I can't remember. Was it The Remains of the Day? I think she got the Oscar for acting, or was it in Howard's End? I think it might have been Howard's End. What were they called again? Used to call them those Merchant Ivory films. And Howard's End and Remains of the Day are also two of my favourite films. There comes a point you think she's in about 4 of my favourite films of all time. She's brilliant, and in she's the only person ever to be nominated or to win an Oscar in a writing in 2 different categories, not in a. She won an Oscar for acting and an Oscar for writing, 2 different disciplines. That's fantastic. It's a Brit, and she's kind of half Scottish, half English. She spends half of her life in Scotland, and she was part of the Better Together campaign, which I was, all for Better Together as well. And it was, she's great. But I discovered recently that Sophie Thompson, there's her sister, obviously it is Sophie Thompson. You can see the name that's her sister, but that's she plays Sheila in Detectorists. Terry and Sheila. She's a bit kind of wacky, but she's lovely. One of the best sitcoms ever written. Just beautiful, gentle stuff. And I just remember looking at that because I've seen her in a few other things. I remember seeing her in an adaptation of Oh Whistle and I'll Come to You, My Lad. That was it was John Hurt that was in it, and she was the receptionist in the kind of hotel. I thought, that's that same woman, and I looked her up, and it's Sophie. She's in 4 Weddings and a Funeral. She's the kind of daft bride, the kind of giggly brides in the main wedding and 4 Weddings, or the first wedding and 4 Weddings and a Funeral. And I thought, that's the same woman. Who is she? She's Sophie Thompson. She's Emma Thompson's sister. I was like, what? She's Emma Thompson's sister? That's unbelievable. And then I was watching recently, it was on the BBC, Persuasion. Now, the BBC, directed by Roger Michell, Persuasion, and I'm like, this is so kind of low rent compared to Ang Lee's Sense and Sensibility. And I remember this being on the BBC. Kieran Hines, it's like 30 odd years ago. Kieran Hines he's playing Captain Wentworth, the kind of hunk of the situation. And what's her name? Is it Mary Musgrove? Mary Musgrove. I'm like, that's Sophie Thompson. It's playing Mary Musgrove. She's not playing Anne Elliot, who's the love interest in Persuasion. And Anne Elliot, the whole thing with Anne Elliot is she's supposed to be a bit dowdy anyway. She's playing Mary Musgrove, who's an arsehole. She's a total twat, Mary Musgrove. And I'm thinking, and I looked up, it's 1995. It's the same year. It came out the same year as Ang Lee's Sense and Sensibility, which is the same year Heat came out as well. And I'm like, you would never put this because it's just got it's a BBC TV production. They actually shoot it in Bath, etc., which is probably more convincing. It's probably more kind of real, if you like. And Jane Austen having moved to Bath, and she's playing an idiot who's a pain in the arse, but without being too threatening. And I'm thinking that's actually harder than what her sister does. Like, her sister has written. She plays Eleanor. She plays Eleanor Dashwood in Sense and Sensibility, and she gets like Hugh Grant, the Edward Ferris. He's the love interest, but it's Hugh Grant, that kind of falls in love with her, so to speak. That's her. And even the guy who's evil, who's the handsome evil guy, Greg Wilde plays. It's no Wickham. Which was it called in Willoughby. Well, she married in real life. That's her husband. That's Emma Thompson's husband. So I'm thinking, yeah, and it's a Hollywood production. It's Ang Lee. He did the Hulk. That thing. It's super colourful. It's got millions of dollars poured into it. Well, this dowdy wee BBC production, and Sophie Thompson she's playing it. It's much harder to play an idiot, a pain in the arse, properly, like just a low-level pain in the ass properly, and she's done that. I thought that's actually better, and I think that's the difference between the Champions League and the Europa League. I think the Europa League, Anne Lee's Sense and Sensibility is the Champions League. Oh my God, it's so glamorous. Oh my God, but maybe Emma Thomas has written the best part for herself, and she really did change the script. It's like it's no all champions in the Champions League. Europa League's no saying. It's no saying making any claims like that. Europa League, it's genuine, it's truthful, and it's not got as much money in it. But it's more real, isn't it? Because it's really the UEFA Cup. It's still got the same trophy. I mean, so is the Champions League, same trophy as the European Cup. But it's more kind of credibility, and it's more difficult, I think, in the kind of budget you get in the Europa League to actually win the Europa League than it is for Champions League, proper Champions League clubs to win the Champions League. That's the difference anyway. That's what I was thinking when I watched that. Give me Sophie Thompson, probably over Emma Thompson any day. It's less glamour, less publicity and all that. But I love them both. I love them both. I admire them both, and I would want to be in either. And we have that choice, and we'll probably take that choice into the next round. Could be a disaster next week. You never know. And also, I was watching a thing about organs, but I'm going to do this. I'll save that for the preview of the Dundee game. I think I was watching a wee programme about massive old organs the other day, and there was old ladies talking about how they thought that their organ was the best in County Durham, but of course they were biased, and I've got a really great way of working it to link that into this whole thing. The main thing is Rangers won 3-0 tonight, and it's just I don't think there's any need for a stay of execution for Russell Martin, but it's just like everybody calm the flip down after the whole thing with Tav as well. Maybe that's Alec, you're always sticking up for Tav, he's your hero. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that without having to take a hit when Tav gets dropped, But I think something the manager said that doesn't work like that. It's like that's the whole thing I've been saying about Tav all along. Is that he's not the greatest footballer in the world, and he's certainly not the greatest footballer in Rangers history, but it's the time he was here. It's what it's all about. It's why he's a proper hero for the ages for this club. I never thought he was going to be appreciated until years after he'd left the club or years after he'd retired from playing. And that moment's getting nearer, and hopefully he's just going to be rotated this season, and we'll still be able to utilise him in certain ways. But if it is a kind of falling out with the manager, or he's been knocked in the pecking order or whatever, I think it's something that he said when the head coach, when Russell Martin was talking the other day, and that's the thing, I keep calling him the manager, but it's getting more difficult not to call him the manager when he behaves like a proper Rangers manager. He's still got to be the leader in a way that it's required. The way it's required at Rangers, it's only properly massive clubs that know what it's like Jurgen Klopp and what have you. You have to be a diplomat. You have to have a personality that's able to rise up to this job. And it's harder if you've not been a top player. But he's always had the desire to be a top coach. He's a top person as well, very much in the Walter Smith mode of his playing career being the best he could probably make of himself. But he's learned all about coaching on the way, so he's ready to do that. It's always what he's been aiming for. But he said, Russell Martin, that if you didn't like what he was saying, if you're a player who you found him being a bit too honest at the weekend in his criticisms of the players, then perhaps you're not a player for this journey that we're on. And the thing is, the journey's changed. The reason I was so upset with anybody who was slagging our previous board was because our previous board was trying to get us to this point. The Willie Waddle stuff, dealing with Ali McCoist with we don't do walking away at Rangers, having to deal with Rangers when they've been put into the bottom tier of Scottish football, having to deal with the effects of that, the after effects of that, keeping all the fans on side, having to deal with various gangster fly-by-night owners, etc., and playing the diplomat with all that. No wonder he never wants to get involved in management ever again. But that's why I feel as if we got to a point where we had properly reliable, properly rich owners bringing in proper sports management experience. That's what we've got just now. We're back at a level, but probably even with David Murray, it's even better than that, because these guys, the San Francisco 49ers, the guy who built the new stadium for the San Francisco 49ers, and just a kind of gazillionaire, and Andrew Kavanagh as well. We are sorted at the base level. We are sorted at the most important level, which is the ownership, the finances, and the running of the club. And it took a decade over a decade to get us back to that level. Steven Gerrard, we're just jumping ahead of ourselves. We were just making sure we got a title in there, and we needed a few things to go our way to be able to carry that on, and they didn't go our way. The Champions League the following season, etc. And of course, Gerrard get taken away by bigger money, and that's the real heroic stuff for me to get us to this point. And that's why I'm just not in any way sweating it when it came to Russell Martin, because even if Russell Martin doesn't do the job, we'd get somebody else in to replace him, because we've got Kavanagh, we've got Kevin Thelwell, we've got Dan Purdy, we've got Patrick Stewart, all there ready to just make sure this club keeps operating in a way that pleases gazillionaires who are used to a club running well, used to everything they invest in working well. So I was never worried about Russell Martin. But what worries me is sometimes the level of, because he keeps playing a right back at left back, I can't stand it. Do you know what I mean? It must all be wrong. The abstract, the total, we need to move on, we need to get this club back to winning ways. Everybody's espousing that. But the minute we see the detail of how that's actually going to pan out, that it's going to involve a few... I don't mind a few setbacks, as long as we're improving generally, say people. And then they see a right back that's obviously going to eventually get moved to right back, but it's taken more than 2 weeks from it to get moved to right back. I can't handle it. Russell Martin's a joke. He's never going to be good enough for Rangers. Let's get, we're conceding so many chances. We're conceding so many goals, though. We've only conceded one goal every second game competitively. No, but he's a fine. That's what worries me, that we're going to end up just hounding everybody decent out of our club. So it was really massive tonight. And to get to the point where we have all this in place, that's because of the hard work, the dirty work that had to be done over the last 10 years or so. And James Tavernier was the captain when we won all 3 of the major domestic Scottish honours, just to make sure we had won them all once at least over this period of getting us to this point. Between, it's all about the transition. It's all about getting from point A to point B, and point A was the lower leagues, and Tav come in at the end of that. And he's taken us to a European final, he's taken us into the Champions League, and he's won all 3 of the domestic honours, and he's scored umpteen bloody goals against Celtic, home and away and what have you. 131 goals for Rangers. It's a different journey. That journey is over, and maybe that means it is over for Tav, but it was the most important journey in our entire fucking history, and that man was front and centre of getting it. So I'm glad he got a standing ovation when he came on to the park tonight. And he'll get another 1 or 2 before he leaves this club. But now it very much is the Russell Martin era, and it's clearly coming from a place of love, because I absolutely loved it. Cheers, folks.